Hey, what's up, guys? Just wanted to do a quick video talking about my experience with cannabis oil, also known as like THC oil, Rick Simpson oil. There's probably a few different names that people use for it. And how that I learned about cannabis oil was that I actually watched a documentary in 2010 called Run from the Cure. And it's a story about Rick Simpson learning about using this oil to improve his health condition. And I think he had a brain injury from like 1997 that he had issues with. And then instead of smoking it, because he knew that smoking it could have some effects and was giving some people relief, he thought if maybe he could find a way to make it edible and consume it, that maybe it would improve the results. So he ended up doing that, and his condition improved. And from that, he moved forward to giving it out to some other people, and their conditions improved. And that ranges from skin cancer to cancer, like from lung cancer to autoimmune conditions, and the list goes on. But a lot of people have seen improvements in their condition. And if you want more information on this, I'll put a link that you can watch the documentary called Run from the Cure. But yeah, so after seeing this documentary, I got in touch with Rick. I reached out to him, I talked to him on the phone, and he was straight up genuine. He's a dude from Nova Scotia, Canada, and he genuinely just cares. He was not profit motivated. He didn't care. It wasn't about money. It was just genuinely about helping people. And there's no doubt about that from the first time that I talked to Rick Simpson. And over the years, I had a chance to talk with him a few times because I helped other people, put them on that route too. But yeah, dude's an awesome guy, stand-up character, and definitely cares about people, that's for sure. So the first time from my conversations with Rick, I ended up being able to acquire some of this Rick Simpson oil. So it got sent to my house, and I remember getting the package in the mail, and it was like the Rick Simpson oil it's like this, just to put a little thing here. So it's like this black tar-like substance, and it came in a syringe. The syringe that I got was bigger than this, but it's just, yeah, it's a syringe with a few grams of oil in it. And I remember that the day that I got it, I decided to try it right away. So the recommendation in the documentary was to take a small dose, about the size of a grain of rice, and then you can slowly build yourself up. So every few days you could double the dose. And yeah, I decided to do it. I remember it didn't hit me at first, but then all of a sudden I noticed that I started to feel really high. And it put me into a little bit of a coma. But for context, I think for a lot of people, I've always been a lightweight when it comes to anything that's like marijuana or like weed related. I can be walking in the park and taking 2 pulls from a joint, and I'm completely wrecked in my own world. So I think everybody's different with their tolerance. But I continued doing this small 1 grain of rice dose like every day. And I know for autoimmune diseases and like cancer, I know a lot of people, the recommended dose is getting up to 1 gram a day. So that's significantly more than I was doing. But what I noticed is from doing this, I noticed that it really forced me to relax. It forces you to sleep. It forces you to heal and spend that time, because what do you think's happening when you're not doing anything? You're not really eating, and you're sleeping a lot more than you usually sleep. And I never really got up to 1 gram because I just stuck to that lower dose because of my sensitivity. But I from what I've been told, that usually goes away. But I do remember that one time I took a full gram, and I went into a complete coma. So I slept for 27 hours, and I remember waking up and looking at my phone log. I had over 20 missed calls, a bunch of texts. Like I literally dropped off the earth for a solid day. It was crazy, but I felt awesome. Like it was a neat feeling to feel that renewed for sure. I've never slept that long in my life, and I don't even remember getting up to use the bathroom, but that could have been me just in that state. But I know you're probably wondering more about my results if you're watching this video. So for context, I have to add, during this time that I tried this, I was still doing a low carbohydrate diet. I was doing a pretty strict version of the SCD diet. But I continued to do this small dose. And what I started noticing that after a few months, a lot of the things that bothered me before, I could eat without issues. And one of the things that I remember at the time is I used to love these like homemade peanut butter cookies, and I could eat a few, but if if I ate more than 3, I would have symptoms. So I might have some cramps, I would have excess gas, I'd have some cramping. I noticed that while I was doing this dose, that I could eat more of these things without issue. And the longer that this went on, it seemed to have an effect where I could eat more and more cookies without issue, which was awesome for me because I love those cookies. So finally I decided, I was working at that time, I was doing some sales work, and I worked it for a cell phone company. It was a good job, pretty much selling phones back in the day. And I decided one day at the food court that I'd take my chances and try eating a chicken burger. So I'd consume some gluten, which was an absolute no-no when you're doing SAD. And I think I ordered like a chicken sandwich or a Big Crunch from KFC. And it was delicious because it was the first thing that I had in a long time. And to my surprise, I had no symptoms after eating it. And this was awesome because, again, I was deprived for a good chunk of time with not eating anything like that because I was on this very strict, rigid diet. And I noticed that as time went on, so the more that I kept taking this stuff, I could eat more and more garbage without issues. So yeah, I could eat McDonald's, I could eat Burger King, I could eat all the stuff that I probably used to eat, all the garbage that I eat on a pretty regular basis. And I used RSO oil, like Rick Simpson oil, for just over a year. And then I finally decided to stop. And I think the reason that I decided to stop doing cannabis oil is, like with anything, there's pros and cons to everything. And I think that the cannabis oil left me feeling very, very cloudy on a lot of the days. So I felt like a space cadet. And for anybody with any kind of autoimmune condition or gut-related condition, you've probably had moments like that in your life because there's the brain-gut connection there. So you probably felt brain fog or just slightly space cadetish. But yeah, I was feeling that. I didn't really like that feeling, and it probably lasted, even at a small dose, it happened to me every day. And it would be, I'd wake up and probably the first 4 or 5 hours I'd feel like I'd feel very hazy. Wasn't a big fan of that. Another thing, and this is probably the more important thing, is that I noticed that my diet was reverting back to a standard American diet. And I don't know if it's my discipline, but really it was just because I could. I was eating all this garbage food that was it was delicious, and it didn't give me any symptoms. So there was no reason to stop eating it. It was enjoyable. I was definitely just eating based on my cravings. Before I knew it, it was like every day was cheat day. So I think if I had to, my thoughts when it comes to Rick Simpson oil is there's no doubt that this can be an awesome tool. It helps people overcome disease, and you can find lots of proof of that. Go look at the comments from the videos it doesn't have to just be this platform. There's a lot of different platforms that you can look at to see. You can also go to like a Reddit forum or just Reddit in general and other forums. You can see people's personal testimonials of their experience and how it improved their conditions. But with that said, it's really important, and I think this very strongly, that I think that diet plays the most pivotal role when it comes to overcoming autoimmune disease or any disease. So I think that if that's not addressed, even though that you're taking this stuff, I think that the chances of those problems returning in the long run are pretty likely. So I think this oil can be a great tool for people that are early on their healing journeys, and people that are probably experiencing some prolonged flare symptoms, or even people that might be on meds that are like, hey, you know what, I'm taking these meds, they have toxic effects, maybe they have side effects, and they're just hard on my body and I want to try something different. That could be an option. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving advice, just saying that it might be an option, and that's something that you'd have to think about in your healing plan. But I think either way, cannabis oil it's reasonably priced, and it might be worth a try if your autoimmune condition is out of control and maybe you have long-term damage that you want to correct, because there's no doubt that it's doing something. It seems like it's hard to find out exactly how it works, and I'm not an expert when it comes to THC oil and its healing benefits. I do notice if you want to go to NIH and you want to go to some of the PubMed and stuff like that, a lot of the studies, you have to pretty much isolate exactly what you're searching, because a lot of the studies seem like they're more aimed at disproving that it doesn't work rather than it does work. So until the medical system or the pharmaceutical companies actually start using these in drugs, I don't think we're going to see a lot of information that documenting on how good they are. But again, I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying that you have to isolate it and you have to break things up and then sort of piece it together how it works. But on a basic level, I have no doubt that it works, because a lot of people are experiencing awesome results using it. And I think if you are going to do it, it's really important to consider the information I'm going to cover right now. Because for my talks from Rick Simpson, you have to really make sure that the THC oil that you use is high in THC content. So you want it to be, and it's only going to be made from the indica plant. So again, it should be this black tar-like substance. And Rick always said that the indica strain was the healing strain. He never said the sativa strain was the healing strain. And the difference between the two is indica is like what we would call when you're smoking weed, and it's called like wheelchair weed. It should put you out. You want to relax on the couch and you want to do nothing. With sativa on the other end, it heightens your senses. So I think a lot of times what happens is if you have depression, anxiety, it heightens those things. It makes them worse for a lot of people, compared to the indica, where it's going to put you on the couch and make you want to relax. So if you're using it for healing, if your goal is to do this for healing, the oil has to be an indica strain. And he always recommended high THC strains. And at the time of talking to him, I remember that he said that White Russian was a great strain that he was telling me about. And I think it was like 22% THC. So I think that that's definitely something to consider. And it's really important to know that like Rick Simpson oil, is not CBD oil. It's that black tar-like substance. And I think that it might contain CBD oil, because I think as time goes on, because even the one that I ordered to show in this video, it has 600 milligrams of THC and 20 milligrams of CBD per that little syringe. And what that does is it sort of, the CBD oil minimizes that high effect that you're feeling off that oil and makes it a lot more tolerable for sure. And I've noticed that. But it's really important I think that if you're going to do it, make sure that you know what you're doing, make sure that you've researched the information. And now just to talk a little bit about like dosing information, I'd start with the small grain of rice. So if you're going to do the small grain of rice and then slowly build up as your tolerance increases. So if it goes from 1 grain of rice for a few days, then try doubling it for a few days. Then a few days later, you can double that dose until you eventually get to 1 gram. Because again, that's the recommended doses for autoimmune conditions and cancer and things like that. But it's going to make you high. It's going to make you sleepy. And for this reason, I'd only do it I'd do it 1 to 2 hours before I'm going to sleep. Never when you're operating equipment or driving or anything like that. Again, do your research. I've put links in the description to Rick's website, and you can hear right from his mouth as he's been the leader of this movement, and you can see what he recommends, because I don't think I'm in a position, or a lot of people are in a position to give advice on things that they don't know about. And I think, especially when you're looking, I can't really recommend where you should get this stuff, but I can say you're better off looking at where he recommends a spot, because there's a lot of people that are trying to use his name. So they're trying to say something's Rick Simpson Oil or Cannabis Oil, and it's very different than what he's recommending. And because I believe in modeling behaviors, and you've heard me say that, and that's pretty much like copying somebody that has the results that you seek. So you can't say that I tried this and it didn't work if what you tried is different than what he's recommending. And I know a lot of people that if you were to buy some oil and it was sativa, he'd say to you that, well, that's not what you're supposed to use. So really important that you use those modeling behaviors and you're actually doing what he recommends. But I think that it could be a good tool, and it's something if you want to consider doing. For myself, I don't take RSO on a regular basis, and if I do take some, it is really pretty much for the purpose of getting high. So I use it to make homemade edibles, And yeah, just to put it in some edibles and get a little buzz on. And I think that, and I've also used it to make like a little CBD oil. So I've pretty much added that. I've added that little vial the little syringe that I showed you, and I've added it to about like 30 to 50 milliliters of like olive oil, and I've made my own pretty much CBD oil / THC oil extract and added some sweetener to it. And you can put a few drops on, and it leaves you feeling a slight buzz or maybe this calming effect. But I don't use it for any kind of maintenance dose. I don't do it regularly. It's not something that I incorporate into my routine, just because I think that diet plays more of a pivotal role. And again, that's just my personal belief. But if you're thinking about trying this, just realize it's a tool, use it wisely, and realize using this is not going to cancel out a bad diet. And for a lot of the people that I researched, a lot of their symptoms returned if they didn't correct things. So yes, it works great and it forces you to heal, but you can't continue to put toxins in your body and be like very metabolically unhealthy, where you're constantly eating garbage foods, processed foods, high carb foods. There has to be a lot more balance there. You have to address. So if you're going to do that to help you heal, make sure you address the diet side too, because that's super important. Do your research. Like I said, I've added Rick's website information in the description of this video. If you guys have any questions in regards to this, I'll do my best to answer you. And if you've tried Rick Simpson Oil or Cannabis Oil, let me know what your experience was. Let me know if it helped you, if it didn't help you, how you felt. And yeah, that's probably the end of my rant. If you guys want to reach out, feel free to reach out. I love creating conversation here. I'm more and more about creating this conversation, this dialogue, to improve the content of these videos. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate the support. You like the videos, smash the like button. It does help these videos going into people's feeds and getting more views. Thanks a million. Have a great day.
Are you tired of feeling crappy? Get my free healing guide. Tips, tweaks, and hacks. Click the description for more information.